to see anything with this kind of rain embedded with some of that twist in the atmosphere, but it would be about right here is where the potential is, where we have a potential weak tornado. The structure in this is very weak, but nonetheless, tornado warning is in place as far as the rest of western New York. Again, in and around Buffalo, we're dealing with generally light rain. It does try to pick up at times where we do have some of the yellow. You can see some more moderate rain, definitely some heavy rain into the southern tier, northern Pennsylvania. Of course, this is the last thing we want to see, especially with that flash flood warning that is in place. And again, the flash flood warning is in place until 1:45 a.m. So this is something we'll continue to watch as we go through the next several hours. Now, once we get past, say, 1:45, 2 a.m., a lot of the heavier rain will begin to march to the east, and I do expect conditions to improve there. As far as the near term, it is this tornado warning, though, that has us the most concerned. Again, tornado warning in place, potential radar. There's been nothing as far as observations or reports, but the radar is showing enough of a spin in the atmosphere that the National Weather Service out of Buffalo has issued this tornado warning. And again, it does run through 10:30, so about another 23 minutes. And we'll continue to provide you with this wall-to-wall coverage as long as we do have this tornado warning in place. And again, as we do widen out pretty much all of western New York as expected, we are dealing with wet conditions. But especially, again, as you get into portions of Allegany County, we still have a bit of thunder and lightning there. There's not even much thunder or lightning with this particular storm. That's kind of how rare this is. And again, while you won't see anything, but you still must take this kind of a storm seriously, especially when you have a tornado warning in place. And it would be right here is where we are potentially seeing some of that weak rotation. And as I put this into motion, again, a lot of the heavier weather will continue to quickly march to the east here over the next half hour or so. And then we still have quite a bit of just garden variety rain, if you will. And this is what we're going to have in place for much of tonight. As I love to say, with big weather comes big weather changes. Well, we're currently seeing some of that big weather right now, and the big weather changes are what in store for this upcoming weekend. So again, it is right here. It's this little feature, and it doesn't look all that impressive, but right there, central Allegany County, this is where the radar is trying to pick up on some very weak rotation. And notice we're not even seeing any more thunder or lightning out of this particular part of the storm. We do have some thunder and lightning as you get closer to, say, Dansville out of some of this activity, but where we actually have the tornado warning in place, we're not even seeing a whole lot of thunder and lightning there. It goes to show you kind of the rarity of this particular event. But nonetheless, if you're just tuning in, we do still have this tornado warning in place. Again, it was issued or just updated at about 10 o'clock. It was issued a little bit before that. The warning does run through 10:30, and that includes right here areas in and around Amity. And as this storm, if it holds together, again, this is also one of these kind of storm cells, when you have this kind of setup, when it's more or less embedded in what we like to call a rain shield, a lot of times you get that spin up. It's very brief, but nonetheless could kick up a small tornado, but then it quickly then falls apart as well. So we'll see if this does try to hold together or if it does just turn more into just a steady, heavy rain, which also, again, we do have that flash flood warning also in place. But again, if you are just tuning in, we do have a tornado warning that has been issued. Central Allegany County, we have this storm that is moving to the north and east at about 20 miles per hour. This is radar indicated, so there have been no observations, nothing reported on the ground. But nonetheless, there is enough information that through radar we could see that rotation in the atmosphere and why we have seen that tornado warning issued. Now, a little further to the west, we also have a flash flood warning that is also in place. This was also issued just a little bit before 10 o'clock. Now, this runs a little bit more so into the overnight, and this includes areas of Allegany State Park and then points east, including areas in and around Olean. We've seen some radar estimates 1 to 2 inches of rain. And that happened at a very quick period of time during the 9 o'clock hour, where we're still expecting upwards of another inch of rain. So a lot of the small creeks and streams, of course, are swelling, and they'll continue to do so as we go through the coming hours before we do see some improvement there. Remember, especially if you're in this area, never attempt to try to cross a flooded roadway. Turn around, don't drown. But again, this is the big story right now, this tornado warning, which is in place. Allegany County, if you're just tuning in, this is a warning for a particular cell. Again, it's kind of embedded in just a large rain shield here. So it doesn't look all that impressive, to be honest, when we just kind of look at it on basic radar. But again, when we do kind of dive in and really look at the velocities and the direction of the winds, this is where right here, this little couplet just north of Wellsville, this is where we might have just enough rotation at the very least. Because of especially some of the heavy rain, definitely can't rule out the potential for some damaging straight line winds. Rain tends to really bring those high winds down to the surface, and occasionally when those winds are rotating, we can also get that weak tornado brought down to the surface. So again, if you are just tuning in, here we are. It's 10:12 on your Friday evening, and we are tracking a tornado warning here, central Allegany County. This warning is in place through 10:30. We also have this flash flood warning in place for portions of Allegany State Park, pushing towards Olean. And as we do take a look at the radar, again, the radar doesn't look all that impressive when we actually try to look at a tornadic signature, if you will, but this would be embedded in a very large rain shield. In fact, pretty much all of Western New York, you can see, is dealing with the wet conditions. We talked about that rain kind of picking up and expanding in coverage here heading into tonight, and the radar has certainly done that. But again, right on the leading edge of it, though, and just within the last half hour, we've seen this particular cell, and it's this one right here, just south of 86, just north of Wellsville. This is the spot where if we do have some of that rotation that is potentially spawning a weak tornado, this is about where it would be. There's even a little bit of a couplet there trying to show up, but this is a very weak signature. Nonetheless, please take this storm seriously. Again, central Allegany County, right along the Southern Tier Expressway here, stretching towards Alfred and eventually towards Hornell and areas of Steuben County here as we go through the next little bit. Now, as far as the overall rain, as we do widen out, we do have more rain to our south and west, so we're still going to be in and out of rain showers for much of tonight, and especially where we do have that flash flood warning in place. That's why it does extend even past midnight. So again, heading into the weekend in all of this, we are going to get breezy and chilly here, chilly enough even for some of those scattered lake effect rain showers that we talk about during the fall season. I think we'll be tracking a few of those as we go through the weekend. But again, getting to the latest information here, it's this cell right here. It's slowly lifting north and eastward at only about 20 miles per hour. That's generally fairly slow, especially for this kind of a system. Not much thunder or lightning really with this at the moment. A few strikes north of it, but right here, a lot of very heavy rain, some gusty winds, and again, at least the potential for a tornado. Again, we do have a tornado warning in place within this red polygon. That includes Amity, and again, pushing even further north and east, just south of Angelica. Kind of see it right behind the banner there. And again, if this storm does hold together, also areas in and around Alfred, these are kind of the villages and the towns that are going to be under the impact of this particular cell as it does continue to move to the north and east there. And you can kind of see, even as we put the radar on there, the actual cell structure itself, not all that impressive. When you just look at this, it just looks like we're dealing with some heavy rain. But when you really kind of break down the finer details, that's where we do have just at least enough of a twist in the atmosphere where we could see a very weak tornado try to make its way down to the ground, especially when you have that kind of heavy rain. So again, if you are just tuning in on this Friday evening, we have a tornado warning in place. Central Allegany County, this warning is in place for about another 13 minutes or so. And as long as we do have this warning in place, we're going to continue to provide you with wall-to-wall coverage as we continue to track this here with live radar. And as far as the rest of Western New York, again, Buffalo, yeah, we've kind of turned into a soggy overnight here. We are dealing with some steady, light to moderate rain. That's going to continue at least for a few more hours. But well to the east, this is where we are dealing with the heavier weather. You can see quite a bit of lightning strikes just south of Rochester, but it's right here. Again, this is the spot where we do have that tornado warning in place, and it does go for about another 12 or so minutes. Again, here's the latest update through 10:30. There's the polygon there. We also have a flash flood warning that is also in place in and around Allegany State Park, pushing towards Olean. We also had a severe thunderstorm warning pretty much in that spot during the 9 o'clock hour, and it was that storm that produced a lot of rain very quickly. And while we could be looking at some flooding issues, there's been no reports that have come in yet, but just looking at the amount of rain that we have seen, 1 to 2 inches, radar estimates could see another inch of rain. That's why we do have that flash flood warning. Remember, never attempt to try to cross, even with your vehicle, never attempt to try to cross a flooded roadway. There's a reason why they have the saying, turn around, don't drown. So keep that in mind. And then just to the east, that same storm, as it did move eastward, again, now a tornado warning. Now, just within the last couple of moments, you saw it there. This is what live coverage does. You get live updates. And just within the last couple of moments, we have seen that tornado warning actually get discontinued. And I was just kind of mentioning that. We'll continue to stay with you here at least for another minute or two to see if it does kind of re-strengthen or if it does continue to weaken. But we did have that tornado warning in place here, Allegany County. The storm itself doesn't look all that impressive, and that's probably one of the reasons why that warning was allowed to be discontinued. But nonetheless, we'll continue to at least monitor this here for another minute or so, as we are dealing with a very strong cold front, a cold front that's going to bring about some big changes here heading into the weekend, a true fall pattern as we do head into the weekend. But again, it's right on the leading edge. We had a severe thunderstorm warning not all that long ago in and around Allegany State Park. We did have a tornado warning in place, but just within the last couple of moments, if you've been watching, we were bringing it to you live, we saw that warning get discontinued. Now, we do still have a flash flood warning, and this is in place, again, because this is an ongoing thing instead of a tornado warning, which is more of a in that moment kind of weather event. Flash flood warning is a little bit more prolonged, and that's why, again, this extends well past midnight, where we'll continue to monitor those small creeks, streams, and rivers. But again, we came to you with wall-to-wall coverage because of that tornado warning, and that tornado warning has been allowed to be dropped as that storm cell is no longer showing signatures of any kind of rotation here. Still, though, some very heavy rain, Allegany County. We already showed you that flash flood warning, but again, very heavy rain here, and this heavier weather will continue to push on off to the north and east. Of course, we're going to have a lot more updates coming up here shortly in about 40 minutes with the Channel 2 News at 11. And of course, I'll provide more information at that time. But with this tornado warning now being discontinued, we're going to turn back to your regularly scheduled programming.